I'm down on the moor after the rain. I'm looking at the cute little mushrooms coming up after the rain. Aren't they cute? Just like something out of a fairy story. Was that wind making a noise on the microphone? Probably. I should get some of that software that wipes it all out. Shouldn't I? Let's just veer to the left now. Where's some more? Where's some more mushrooms? There they are. A table and chairs. On a late autumn afternoon after the rain, down on the moor. Aren't they cute? Aren't they cute? The top looks all sticky. There's a shot of a tiny toadstool, one of them. It's got some tiny insects stuck to it, hasn't it? Oh, I'm getting wet knees. This is handheld work. What sort of toadstool mushroom is that? I don't think they're field mushrooms, unless there's two different sorts growing together, which is possible. Where's your friend? I don't think mushrooms come up like that, do they? My mother and my grandfather used to know what a mushroom looked like. They could go out mushrooming after the rain. But when we moved into the town, they didn't teach all that to us. I grew up in a country town and not on the farm, so I didn't learn all that wonderfulness about how to collect mushrooms. I didn't. I wouldn't know the difference between a champignon and a death cap, would I? I wouldn't. Let's have a look under this. See what it looks like underneath. I can't see what I'm filming, by the way. Look at its gills. I've seen coral that looks like that. I've also seen mushroom hand grips for bicycles that look like that. They're very soft to the touch, made out of rubber. Oh, look at that, it's got freckles on its stem. The MLC Centre in Sydney has mushroom-shaped buildings. Of course, the Jetsons lived in mushroom-shaped buildings. What are those little spots? Are they insects or just some sort of growth? What are those spots on the stem? Are they insects? I'll figure it out when I look on the wider screen. Beautiful gills. Gorgeous gills. Well, I just walked a few yards in another direction. This is some other sort of mushroom coming up by the looks. They're a different shape. Lots of them. Look at that one over there. Lots of them. Lots and lots of them. They're growing under elm trees. Lots of them. Because there are so many, I might knock one over and have a look at the underside. That one just there. I'll knock that one over just for science's sake, for curiosity's sake. These fungi are quite different. I haven't knocked one over yet, I'll get around to it in a minute. These ones are quite different. They don't come up in that parasol shape to start with. They come up sort of, well, I'm not sure how they come up, but they don't come up looking like a little parasol affair. Look at that. Do you know those Chinese lanterns that are made out of paper that they hang up at Christmas time? Or they used to. Back in the 50s. I'll dare knock one over. That's what it looks like. I suppose I shouldn't interfere. All those mushroom books, they make it look... I'm probably intimidated because that one can die if one eats them, but they have dye tests and everything. You're supposed to squeeze some juice or something and see what colour it stains and everything. I've never done all that. I've bought books on mushrooms before. But when you read about the destroying angel or the death cap and what happens, it's quite horrible. When I was a child, the local psychiatric hospital used to sell mushrooms collected by the patients to raise money. Once we made some soup and my brother was violently ill and he hasn't eaten mushrooms ever since, and that was 50 years ago. Yes, the psychiatric hospital used to have huge lawns everywhere and mushrooms. I don't like handling them because I've even read that you can be poisoned with some very poisonous ones. If you handle them and don't wash your hands properly, you can get poisoned. We used to have a retarded man across the road from our place once, and he'd bring over, he'd collect, he thought he was doing us a kindness, he'd collect mushrooms, but he'd also collect toadstools mixed with them. And my mother one day, she was picking out the mushrooms from the toadstools, and she got worried that some of the poison might have rubbed off from the toadstools onto the mushrooms. So we tossed them all out. That's what they look like. And here are those fungi that I filmed, what, a week or so ago? They're starting to look more like brackets now, aren't they? Much larger. I'd like to know which mushrooms were edible. I knew this boy who used to do wild food, and he was in some national park somewhere and he collected some fungi, some mushrooms that were said to be edible. And he was as sick as a dog. He thought he was going to die. He thought he was going to die, but he pulled through it. Whatever they were, they weren't so toxic that they killed him. They weren't so poisonous, no. Let's have a closer handheld look. Look how they've progressed. A ring. Does that mean anything? Somebody who's interested in fungi might be interested in this video. Growing under a loquat tree. They're certainly all golden and beautiful, aren't they? They look like they could have been deep fried to a golden brown. I wonder if they're native or exotic. So many fungi come in from overseas too, because people travel all over the world now and bring all sorts of spores on their shoes and everything, don't they? They do. We have the death cap in Australia. We have Amanita muscaria. Is it muscara or muscaria? The ones in fairy tales with the red caps with white spots. We have lots of introduced fungi. Do we have Phallus hadriani or Phallus imputicus? I'm not sure. I think we might have a couple of those. I'm not sure.